Hi, everybody. I am your host of the Lost Travelers Club, Peregrine DadCast. We are a weekly podcast where we talk about men's grief. We talk about a father's grief. We are still stigmatized in the world for not being given a platform to express our feelings, our emotions, and our thoughts on the process, the unfolding of grief from a men's perspective. And so my usual co-hosts are all out of commission today. And so I am here all by myself. And I thought this might be a good time for me to introduce myself, to talk about a couple projects that I'm working on right now through the Lost Travelers Club, and to talk about why I think it's important to be involved with this kind of an organization. If you have not yet visited the Lost Travelers Club, simply go to www.losttravelers.club and find out all about us. There is a new word called peregrine that serves as widow and orphan do for people who have lost their parents or their partners. And I've been on a quest for the past 15 years since the passing of my son, Cameron, from brain cancer at age 13. He was diagnosed at 11 with a kind of cancer that was only found in men over 45, so fairly rare in children. And there's still no answers as to why he would have gotten it. No other child on the block, no other child at school got it. And so it's simply a question of, it was his time and his way. And he lived with it twice as long as they thought he would, 2 years, until he was 13. And he passed gently at home. And that was very special. And so I have been on this search, this journey for a word for us, for people, parents who have outlived their children. If you've lost a partner or a parent, and someone asks you, oh, do you have a partner? You can say, no, I'm a widow or a widower. Enough said. People understand what that means, and you don't have to go into it. But for us, for peregrines, we have had to open our chests and spill out our most personal, private, sacred pain for the whole world to try and understand when we ourselves are having a struggle understanding it. And so it came to me in a dream. I have been diagnosed with CPTSD, and I encourage anyone who has outlived a child or anyone who has experienced a degree of trauma to go and get yourself diagnosed, or at least do a personal survey to see if you are exhibiting some of the symptoms of PTSD or CPTSD. C stands for complex. We do have a form on the Lost Travelers Club website for a self-evaluation to gauge for yourself where you are in that journey. Might I be living with PTSD? How does it manifest? Does it manifest through anger, anxiety, paranoia, or other, dreaming or thinking about things obsessively? Being reactionary, all of those things could be symptoms of PTSD. And I do urge you all to go and check that out, if nothing else. And while you are there at the Lost Travelers Club website, become a member. There are going to be services and perks available for members who are peregrines. I've recently received a diploma, my international certification in grief and survival counseling. And we are offering that as a free service for members of the Lost Travelers Club. Right there is a perk. I know a lot of people around the world either don't have insurance, can't afford insurance, and are looking for a reasonable way to get the self-care that they need to process all of the feelings and all the triggers that we go through as peregrines. And I am freely offering that through the Lost Travelers Club. I do offer it otherwise for people who may not be peregrines, but are looking for affordable care and counseling, mentoring, things like that. And I make it accessible to everyone. So please check that out. I call my service guy wire. A guy wire is a stable cable that lends stability to a freestanding structure. You've seen them on construction sites, you've seen them on suspension bridges. That's what I feel like I do, is I lend you stability during your unstable times, because I've been there. It's been 15 years for me, and it's been a lifetime of navigating trauma and triggers from early childhood. And so I do have a body of experience as well. I know that in searching for counseling, a lot of people are having trouble because their counselor has not outlived a child, has not been through that journey. For me, that matters. For me, when I sought counseling, I couldn't find anyone out there who could empathize with where I've been. And that, for me, I think is one of the benefits of working with me through your journey, because I get it. I've been there and I am there, and we can go through it together. You're not alone. So that's the message. And you can go and click on the Guywire counseling on the Lost Travelers website as well. One of the things that I'm working on right now that I'm going to share as a gesture of Thanksgiving. This is Thanksgiving week after all, and I know that the holidays are a really hard time. They're hard for me. And so I can only imagine for new peregrines out there. I remember my first Thanksgiving without my son present. And there are ways to do this. There are ways to navigate it that are, it's never going to be easy. Let's face it. There's no healing from this. But there are ways to endure and survive and create a life for yourself in a completely different perspective. And so I'm working on a book right now. It's called Quantum Grief, and it is the journey. It is looking at grief through what I've been able to determine 12 different dimensions, and to look at your grief journey through the lens of quantum physics. There are qualities in quantum mechanics, quantum theory, that for me have equated to the grief journey. And so I would like to offer, as a gift of Thanksgiving, a narrative of chapter 1. I am going to be publishing this soon as an ebook. And so you can contact me at the Lost Travelers Club through the website if you would like to reserve a copy. For members of the Lost Travelers Club, and again, membership is free, but if you are a member, then you will receive the ebook, if you choose, for nothing. This is my gift. It came through me in a dream state, and I want to offer that to other peregrines. The message is universal, however, and if you have lost a partner, or if you've lost your parents, or if you've lost a pet, or if you've lost a friend, even a colleague, a coworker, an employee, this might be helpful in just sort of understanding the grief journey for yourself, but also to be able to be sensitive to it in other people around you. There are different phases of grief that have been talked about and structured. But what I have found for myself, and have heard from a lot of other people who I have counseled and have worked with in a collegial aspect, those don't really fit anyone's journey. There may be glimmers of them here and there, anger and depression and rage and sadness and all of that. They're all included, but they don't manifest in any particular order. And so I find that a lot of peregrines are caught feeling like there's something wrong with them because they're not manifesting these stages of grief, or not manifesting for them in the way that you read in books and you see in videos and so forth. And so here's another option. I've never heard anyone talking about grief through a quantum lens. And by quantum, I really, it's a very complex science that is emerging. I do urge everyone to find out about it and see how it relates to you. This is just a guideline. But there's a certain unpredictability in the grief journey that I think quantum physics really helps me understand now that I'm living with this. And so I want to share this with you. I'm just going to share chapter 1, and I would love your comments. I would love your feedback and see what you feel about. Do you want more? Do you want to understand more on this level? Because I think it's time that we break through the vortex of mourning that keeps dragging us down. I see so many posts from people who are deeply depressed, who are not looking forward to the rest of their lives. They're not looking forward to the holidays. They've lost all sense of purpose. They've lost all sense of joy. I was that guy until recently, until I regained a connection to my feeling, my sense of purpose, where that deep joy in your soul meets a great need in the world. And to be able to channel our grief into service, into goodness, that's made a huge difference for me. And so I just thought, I'm putting myself out there and saying, hey, let's cast a wide net and see who responds. And if you like it, please become a member of the Lost Travelers Club, and please be in touch with me directly, and I'm happy to guide you through. Quantum grief, navigating 12 dimensions of grief through the lens of quantum physics. Dimension 0, the Big Bang. The study of quantum physics has revealed an eerie dimension 0, an infinite void predating all we know, a quantum vacuum containing every potentiality, lacking only existence. From this shoreless sea of uncertainty, space, time, and matter suddenly crystallized in the Big Bang, unfurling the concrete reality that we now inhabit. Today, scientists ponder what invisible forces turned the chaotic potential of Dimension 0 into the orderly universe we experience. We too must confront this chaos. For when a loved one passes, we plunge into our own desolate Dimension 0, where once was certainty, their absence punches a black hole into the fabric of our reality. Our world warps and shatters beyond recognition. Like particles fluctuating aimlessly in the quantum vacuum's uncertainty, we are suspended between past and future, feeling emotionally adrift without the person who anchored us. Yet quantum theory strangely implies that potential still dwells in uncertainty. As the primordial ambiguities of Dimension 0 improbably collapsed into reality, so too from the darkness of grief, new forms and meaning can arise. When suspended in this mournful Dimension 0, simple practices can help. Sitting quietly and journaling when the emotions surface. Temporary escapism through comforting books, music, videos. For me, it's doom scrolling. Talking to trusted friends and family who can listen without judgment. Joining an online grief support group to feel connected. Allowing yourself to fully feel and express emotions in safe spaces. Looking at nostalgic photos and reminiscing in small doses, that's important. Trying simple breathing exercises or light stretches when you're able to. Spending time in nature or bringing plants or flowers indoors can be very helpful. Asking for help with practical tasks like meals or household duties. Prioritizing rest and basic self-care, even if that means just maintenance. The key is adapting to changing energy levels and doing what feels right in each moment. There's no universal path forward, only yours. In dimension 0, we exist in an anxious superposition between past and future. The wave function representing our probability of moving forward encompasses simultaneously every imaginary path ahead. To find unity in chaos, we must gently observe these roiling emotions without judgment, allowing their cloud-like forms to condense into definite states. By tuning in to grief's subtle frequencies, we bring order to the uncertainty. Each feeling's wave collapses into precise form, like matter precipitating from the void at the dawn of creation. We crystallize coherence from confusion. Entangling with others alleviates isolation. Ritual and remembrance transmute ambiguities into newly defined shapes, rich with meaning. Take heart. Dimension 0 is but the mysterious beginning, not the end. You are eternally loved across all dimensions. The journey continues. Though the path ahead remains difficult, brighter dimensions await. The grief journey begins. Now I'm going to read to you from this journal and workbook that'll accompany the ebook. First of all, I want to say that for clarity, when you think of dimensions, right, you have the ink that is in the pen. The ink is fluid, but it's contained, okay? And imagine that ink is not yet in the pen, okay? It's just ink, it's flowing. And that is your life before the event, okay? It flowed like ink. And it had its feeling of continuity, of predictability, of joy, all of those things. And then the ink exploded everywhere. It's the Big Bang. You're never going to be the same again, right? You're covered. But then what you can do is you can put the ink back into a pen. And the ink itself has no form, really, other than the shape that it takes in the pen. And you are the pen, you're the vessel. So dimension 0 is the explosion, right? It's the Big Bang. Nothing will ever look the same. You're in chaos. You feel numb. Everything's flying around. And you can't even think about putting the ink back into the pen because it's everywhere. Just like your feelings, your emotions are everywhere. You have to endure that. You have to get focused where there's no focus. You have to get in touch with your feelings where you're numb, you don't know how to feel. And when you're able to do that, you move into the second dimension, right? So we think of 2-dimension, or the first dimension is you got the ink in the pen. Okay, there's form now. You're back to yourself. Second dimension is when you put the ink on paper. And if you look at ink on paper through a microscope, you can see that it's layered. You have the paper, and then you have the ink sitting on top of the paper. So it adds height and it adds width. There's still no depth. It's like the old Bugs Bunny cartoons and the old Disney cartoons that were in 2D, right? It was just the ink on the cell. But then the third dimension adds depth. It's when things go into 3D, 3 dimensions, right? And you start to connect more with your surroundings in a deeper way. You start to get back to the striving to understand who you are, where you are, and what you're becoming. Because we don't know. That's the truth. It took me 15 years to reconnect to my joy. I thought it had left with my son. I didn't think I could ever experience joy again. And And then I realized through this meditation that the joy never left, just like he never left. That death is really an illusion. And this whole perspective, this quantum perspective, affirms that everything is frequency and that everything interacts. It's called entanglement, right? That a particle right here somehow unpredictably can have an effect on a particle on the other side of the universe, that they're somehow connected. And that's how I feel it is with our children. And so this journey through the quantum lens, it does affirm that. And it changed my perspective on death. I don't believe that death is real. So that now what? Okay, so if death is not real, let's start reviewing dimension zero, the Big Bang. You know that an event happened where your child who was here with you in the physical frequency no longer is in the physical. It doesn't mean they're gone. It doesn't mean they're lost. I'm trying to get away from using the word loss because they're not like a set of keys or a favorite scarf. We know precisely where they are. They're here. They're right here, very much alive in our hearts. When we feel them, when we think of them, even if they're not yet visiting in the dream state, I know that takes a long time for some people. For me, it took 9 months, which if you think about it is a gestation. And when it does happen, it's a reaffirmation that they're very much alive and that there is an entanglement. There is a forever interaction between you and your child. They're very much alive, only they live inside your body now instead of outside. And once the numbness starts to wear off in dimension zero, and let's face it, it's mourning, right? And it's the first stages of mourning. Mourning itself has about 3 dimensions. And so when you are in mourning, there's nothing you can do with it. It's a passive state. And it's a temporary state. You're not going to mourn forever. I know it feels like you will, but you won't. There's a very thin membrane between mourning and grieving. Mourning is part of the grief journey, but mourning and grieving are different. They have different qualities. And there's a thin membrane between the two. And only you know where that membrane is because you've felt yourself move through it. Sometimes it's just in a moment. Sometimes you go to sleep feeling fully in mourning, and then the next morning you wake up and that feeling of mourning is no longer there. I wanted to write a book, I might still someday, called I Am Not a Mourning Person, MOURNING, because I already was feeling that I had a deeper understanding for myself around what the passing of my son meant and what it meant for me as a person. And I came to terms early with that disconnect from my joy without even expecting that I would reconnect or be able to. And here I am. I've reconnected to my joy. Amazing. And so I want to share that. That's my Thanksgiving. Okay. I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I still feel like I have a connection with my son. I feel like his hand is in every aspect of my life. Every aspect of my life. I feel him so potently, and other people do too. People will dream about him. Messages will come. Cardinals will show up. 3 days before he passed, he whispered to me to look for cardinals, Papa, as a sign that I'm around. And I had never heard that before. Apparently that's a thing that a lot of people will equate cardinals to their child being around. And so that was the first tattoo that I ever got, is a cardinal right on my heart, because I knew I would be traveling outside of North America. There are no cardinals outside of North America. And so it's the first and last thing I see every single day in the mirror. And so that's what was the beginning of acknowledging that this is where he lives now, right here in my heart. And we're still a team. He comes to me in dreams. We do talk, and he comes to me in other forms as well. But that's the quality of frequency. That's what I've learned through the study of quantum physics, is that frequency, it can't be created, it can't be destroyed. It just transmutes. It changes its form freely. But it's up to us in the limited body that we have to strive to find that frequency that they're at right now. You know it when you find it. And that's when you cross the membrane into grieving. Because then it's sort of an out breath, right? And so that's sort of how I've experienced the first stages. And now after 15 years, I can look back and say, oh, things have so obviously moved from point A to point B, right? I look back at the journey since the Big Bang, since dimension zero, and I can see how it's unfolded. And for me, it's unfolded in 12 dimensions. And so that's what this book and workbook journal, Quantum Grief, is going to be about. And I'm hoping that I can launch it before Christmas, before the holiday season. And so if you would like to pre-order a copy, I will have a link to that soon on the website. But go and become a member. You'll get a notification when it goes live, and or when I have a launch date. And I'm hoping that for the giving season, that's something that people can either purchase, which will benefit the Lost Travelers Club. We are a nonprofit organization under the umbrella of United Charitable, who's our fiscal sponsor. And they are a recognized charity, charitable organization, 501c3. So your donation is tax deductible. And so this book will be our thank you for that donation. And I'll have a price point on it. That won't be too much. It'll probably be 14, 15 bucks. Tell me in the comment section what you think of this idea of quantum grief. I'm going to leave you with some affirmations that are in the Dimension Zero chapter of the workbook journal. I flow with grief's waves, softening into the changes. Uncertainty contains possibilities. I observe my emotions with gentle quantum curiosity. Sit with that for this week. Sit with that, think about it, do some creative exploration, do a drawing, just a sketch. You don't have to be good at it. Just put some ink to paper and draw or describe your emotions as quantum waves or particles or unknowns, and see what comes, see what insights emerge in you. Okay. Other reflections are, how did this Dimension Zero experience change your sense of life and self? I know that those that are in Dimension Zero are still numb and are probably not able to understand or answer that reflection. But those of us that are a little further down the journey, might be helpful to go back to Dimension Zero and remember, how did you feel? What was your change in self? You know, your perspective on life. What core beliefs feel more or less certain now? If you picture your emotions as waves or particles floating in a quantum sea of possibilities, what insights come from visualizing your inner state this way? Just imagine, right? The entire past of your existence only lives in your imagination. Your memories of our beloved children, they only live in our imaginations. And it's really helpful to imagine the future as well. That only lives in our imagination, right? So it's an illusion. Nothing's real, nothing that's past and nothing that's future exists except in your imagination. This moment is everything. If you were to imagine your grief feelings as shapes or colors, what would they be? Put that down on paper. How might that help? Are they square? Are they round? Are they jagged? Do they hurt like sharply, or is it a numbness? Is it more fluid, like amoeba like? What moments of calm have you found within the uncertainty? You may have heard this. It's been going around the internet a little bit. The opposite of a trigger is a glimmer. And so the times that you are not in a trigger state, what are the glimmers? What moments of calm, those moments of positivity, those moments of out breath can be found within the sea of uncertainty? How can you create more quantum peace when your emotions are so unpredictable? Because you're in control of it fully. It doesn't feel like it. It's like I call it a tsunami. It's like when the tsunami hits you from behind, it clops you, it knocks you unconscious, and you feel like you're drowning, and you're flailing about trying to grab onto a branch or a rock or something. And too many people get injured in that process. But if we trust that we can float, which we can, and we let the water carry us, even though it's unpredictable, physics teaches us that the rough waters will eventually come to a place of calmness, and they will carry us floating through those triggers to a place of calmness. Consider ways your bond with your child could resemble quantum connections like entanglement, as I mentioned. What links between you and your child still feel tangible because they are there? Some people will find a dime on the ground and they will know that it's a sign from their child. Some people will find a feather. Some people will hear a song on the radio. There was this one time I was walking through a Marshall's store, and there was a song on the radio that I noticed that was a favorite song of my son's, and it was about love, and it made me smile. And unpredictably, a woman came around the corner and said, "Is there a young person that is on the other side? Because I'm getting a message from somebody for you, from a young male. And he's just saying that song was for you. I don't know what it means. I'm not a clairvoyant. I just got this impulse and I know it was for you. So that's all. Bye." I mean, those kinds of weird things, they happen to me all the time. And I think part of that is because I'm open to it. So I guess all this is to say that dimension 0, well, all the dimensions really are temporary. And you can live and be in each one. That's what I'm hoping that this book will reveal, that you can spend time in each dimension. And because of the quantum nature of reality, the unpredictability and the fluidity of it all, you can actually travel back and forth, right? In your dream state, in your waking state. There's not a scientist on the planet who can tell you that your dream state is more or less real than your waking state. I know your waking state feels more real, but I'll tell you something. With my sleep paralysis, I'm in as real a world as I'm sitting in right now talking to you. And so I bring the wisdom that's coming to me in the dream state into my waking state. That's the way I'm able to break through between worlds. And the same with the past. There are smells that will remind me of a particular moment with my son. There are songs, like I said, or sounds, or being in places that we visited together, or seeing a photograph that we were, of a place that we were together. I still have a challenge looking at photographs of him. I feel the weight of that. But there are some people who need that. They need the pictures all around them everywhere. They need the whole world to be a shrine to their child. and that's okay. The world gets to meet our children through us, and that's a beautiful thing. They're not only living in us and working with us, but they're living and working through us. So that's where I wanted to leave this Thanksgiving message for this week. Be thankful that we got the time with our children that we got. And I know that every passing is unique in a similar way that every birth is unique. There are going to be common threads that we can identify, but everyone is unique. And our children go in different ways at different times. And many of us are left asking why. Why them? Why not me? Why not somebody else's kid? And it does get better. It does get clearer. And that's what I'm hoping that quantum grief will reveal, is that here are 12 stages, 12 dimensions of the grief journey that you may or may not resonate with, but they are a guideline. They are a way to follow a journey when you don't know which way you're going. You're at a crossroads. So I'm not going to say happy Thanksgiving, because it's not going to be happy for everybody. I know a lot of people will be missing their child's presence at the Thanksgiving table and celebrations. Create that space. You're allowed to do that. I still create a space for my son at the Thanksgiving table. I set a place for him. There's a chair, photograph of him. I serve his favorite foods onto his plate. And somehow that helps. It's reminiscent of other cultures that do grief a lot better than we do in the West. And they create the space for their deceased to come back and celebrate key times. They say that this time of year, and this is common in every culture, the veil is thinner between worlds. And there's a feeling of closeness that is perhaps because it's darker, because we're more inward. Go there, lean into your grief. You're allowed. And create the space for thankfulness. Realize that your child is now your ancestor. That's a big thought. They are a blood relation that preceded you in passing on from this world. And so take comfort in that. Take power in that. The way that we reflect on our ancestors when we're thinking about ourselves and our strengths and how we get through these difficult times in the world. Lean into your ancestors, including your children. A special thought goes to the children that are both being held hostage in the Middle East and the ones that have had their lives taken away, not only their own lives, but the lives of their families and their loved ones. It is unconscionable in the 21st century that this is still happening. And there's great power in the imagination. So if we imagine a better world, imagine a world where this no longer happens, that this is way in the past of human history, as it should be. We know better, and we must do better. I talk a lot about finding the common threads in all of us and weaving whole cloth out of that. Because to focus on the divisions, to focus on the differences, and to be so arrogant as to say that my way is the way, my way is the right way, and your way is the wrong way, that takes us into dark places that are part of our humanity. But I think that every challenge carries with it potential. It carries with it opportunities. My grandmother used to say potential means nothing unless you're doing something with it. So what are we going to do with it? Is it enough to just get out and march and scream and yell at one another? Is it enough to get out there and drop bombs on the people that are attacking you? I don't think so. I think that the focus has to be within, not outside of ourselves. I think that people who are like-minded should come together and affirm and imagine a better world and work toward a better world together. You know, we can contact the people who are in leadership in the world at every level and have these hard conversations. These are all things that are going to be coming up around the Thanksgiving table. Protect your peace. Protect your peace. And I think that the peace of the world will be protected as well to some degree. Thanks for listening. And again, please go to www.losttravelers.club, become a member of the Lost Travelers Club. If you're a Peregrine, then there will be services, counseling services, books, and other resources that will be available to you at no cost. If you want to support the Lost Travelers Club and the work that we're doing so that we can offer these services and resources for free to members, then please give generously and tell other people about us. Word of mouth is very powerful, even in the digital AI age. So thank you again for your time, and Thanksgiving blessings to everyone and peace on earth and to you. Thanks, everybody.